Prepare yourself for List Off, the gaming podcast where your hosts, Brian and Ryan, rank the things they love. 3, 2, 1, List Off!
This week, we explore a sense of dread as we dive into the top 10 moments in Metroid Dread. How are you doing, Ryan?
Good, Brian. Good. How are you?
I'm doing dreadfully well.
Oh, that doesn't sound good. I guess
just my neck is killing me.
Oh,
I got a stomach ache. It's terrible, but I'm here.
We're not getting any younger.
Nope.
So to be clear, too, this is just really an excuse to talk about Metroid Dread. We did both just complete it, and we are very excited about the game.
Yes.
And it's more like things we like, 10 things we liked about the game. So not necessarily moments that happen, but this will be a full-on spoiler cast. So if you have not played through the story of Metroid Dread, you may want to do that before you listen to this podcast, this episode. Yeah.
I would extend that to all Metroid, like 2D Metroid games. I mean, it's probably all things are spoiled in all of them at this point.
Yeah.
As being Metroid 5. So
yeah, this is only the third time we've done a dedicated game episode. So
we had The Last of Us Part 2. Yeah. We had Hades, the different boons that are available.
Right.
So we love this game so much that we had to do a full episode dedicated to it.
We have enough to talk about that we have a full episode. Because we'll get into it. But anyway,
get into it. You'll make a judgment call as to if we like this game or not.
Right, for sure.
So, but before we get to that, did you play any video games this week?
I did.
Obviously, you played Dread because people can be out for a week.
Our listeners may be able to guess one of them. Right. It is Metroid Dread. Good guess. The other one I played is Back 4 Blood. We were able to jump on and play some games last night of that.
Yeah.
And it was fun. I really did enjoy it. We were playing on Veteran at first, which was a mistake. We were getting just totally murdered, unable to complete the first act. It was bad and not really what I was expecting. As I played more, I think the problem was we weren't moving enough. I do think moving towards your goal is a huge part of this because the what do they call them? The ridden will continue coming for you regardless. But yeah, no, I definitely enjoy this game. It is kind of just a mindless shooter, but there are elements that do a little more than just to make it a little less mindless. I did like the card aspect. I played a little more today as well. And, especially once the game gets through Act 1, you kind of get the full game at that point. You get more characters available, and it really becomes a matter of matching each character's strength to make a comprehensive team. The weapons are fine. I think the weapons are all kind of junky until you get some of the additions, like the upgrades you could get for them that like either stabilize it or give it a bigger clip. Really, I felt like the aiming accessories that you get for the guns went very far as my enjoyment of the game, because a lot of these weapons, the accuracy wasn't what I wanted it to be.
Yeah, I had picked up an Uzi and it was such a big spread. It took up half the screen.
Right. And not just that, with the kickback seems pretty intense for some of the automatic weapons.
Right.
But once, like I said, if you use burst fire and you get some of those aiming accessories, it really, really helps. But it is definitely 100% more enjoyable online with people.
Yeah.
And with
Did you try it by yourself?
I did. Yeah, no, I was playing the solo campaign.
Okay.
But today when I tried playing, I did try to continue our campaign.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think there were enough people on the server or something. It just kept searching for people. So I went into the solo campaign and I played a few acts past where we had gotten last night. And it's great. I actually enjoy that the way the levels play out early on. It is get from here to the safe house, like do that one thing and you're good.
Sure.
But it does start to do different things where it's no longer like, hey, just get to the safe house and try to or like find something on the way. There are a few where it's like plant these bombs. You got to go back in there and like plant these bombs, or you got to go save these people. And there are bigger objectives that make the game more interesting. And I'll definitely play through the story. I think I'm enjoying it enough to do that.
So do you know how it works playing through the different acts? Because when we were playing, we started from the first act and the first whatever, and then it just like jumped us into another one when we tried to play again. So does it just like throw you into wherever? Like, could we presumably start playing Act 3 as our second time playing?
It's locked for us until we play it through the story.
Okay.
So
but we just like completely skipped like Act 1 Part 2. Like I never saw that part.
Oh, I think that's because I was running the game and I had played that part.
I see. Okay.
Because I had created the group, right?
Okay.
The party.
So as long as someone has gotten through that
yeah.
point.
Yeah, it seems like. So if I completed the game, you could jump in and play. We could play any level we wanted to, basically. Okay. But we did, once we were in there, we played linearly. We did play through each act, and they do a good job of fitting together.
Does your equipment move with you at all, or you start from scratch? Like if you jumped in and are playing an Act 4 mission, do you have any upgrades from them?
Yeah, no, so I can only answer for the solo game, but when I went in today, I was playing that solo game as Mom. One of the characters is named Mom.
Yes.
And I was playing as her, and I still had my gun that I had with my upgrades on it, and I had all the other upgrades that I had purchased. So, and the deck that I had created up to that point. So no, it did carry over.
That's cool.
Yeah. As long as like we continue the same campaign, I believe it will. It did seem like when we got back in, it didn't carry the deck over. It allowed you to pick your deck again, which is, but from the same pool of cards,
Right.
So, yeah, but what were your thoughts on the game and the gameplay? And
I really enjoyed it. I would pretty much echo everything you said. The gunplay is really good. I felt like it was fun to shoot things in the game.
Yeah.
Everyone takes like 1 to 2 shots to down.
Yeah.
I did have a hard time with the bigger enemies. There's no real good way to escape them. Like there's no dodge. You just kind of have to turn tail and run.
Yeah.
And they're fast too. Some of the big enemies can really book it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was kind of challenging at certain points there.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And they sneak up on you. There's not always, there is an audio cue, I think, when those bigger enemies show up, but it's very subtle and it's not always easy to tell they're there. And some of them literally just beeline it for you, full sprint, and blow up in your face. So if they're coming from behind you and you don't know it, you're just going to eat that damage.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the point. Like if there's a big enemy, everyone should be focus firing and working together to down it as soon as possible.
Yeah. And with the larger enemies, if you don't hit those weak spots, they are somewhat bullet spongy. It'll take more than the 1 to 2 shots, but they have these huge glowing red weak spots that it's very apparent. Shoot here. And, if you have the angle, it's really not a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it. I'll certainly jump in more as time goes on here.
Let's do it tonight. Let's go. Yeah. Let's go, buddy.
Yeah.
All right. Hattie. The other game I played, because it is spooky-tober, and actually I want to say Metroid Dread fits in nicely to that theme. I think. Yeah.
All of these games are, I feel like sometimes that these game companies do it on purpose. I think Luigi's Mansion, that was like October 31st it came out.
Yeah, that's definitely intentional.
Right.
The other game I've been playing again and trying to finish this time is Alien Isolation. If you go back and listen to our top 10, our last Halloween episode was our scariest games or something like that. Yeah, right.
I believe you.
It's been a year. Whatever. My memory is like a week long. That's it.
Right.
But I mentioned that I loved Alien Isolation. It's definitely one of the scariest games I've ever played because I didn't finish it. And I'm not like a scaredy cat, but this game it gives you a sense of unease and it makes you feel weak and powerless.
Right.
And it is doing just that, but I am definitely enjoying playing through it. And I swear this time I'm going to finish it. Maybe.
Nice. Do it. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. So did you play any games this week? So
everything you just mentioned, Dread and Back 4 Blood, that is my entire games list. We're going to go deep into Dread. But yeah, for Back 4 Blood, I had never played Left 4 Dead for any real sense of time, maybe an hour. And I think it was Left 4 Dead too. So I enjoyed what I played then, but this I can see myself dedicating a little more time and effort into it, especially since I get to play on a nice PC and have, the controls are a lot of fun and everything seems pretty self-explanatory to begin with here. So I'm into it. I'm eager to see how much it goes, and maybe we'll meet some friends along the way and develop a good group to play with. We'll see.
Hopefully.
Who knows?
Hopefully we'll meet some good ones.
Hopefully we will make some good ones.
Yeah. Okay. Should we just get it?
I mean, sure.
All right. So we played with somebody last night who was a very interesting person.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to go beyond that, but it was a good time. It's worth a laugh. So you always run into certain characters online, right?
Oh yeah.
He
was a character for sure.
He was for sure, man. It was a good time though. I did have fun playing.
That's right.
That's for sure.
All right. Well, without further ado, I believe we should get into these lists. We've got the top 10 moments in Metroid Dread.
Let's do it.
Okay. That was dreadful. That was very scary.
Thank you. You have to watch the YouTube video to know what he's talking about.
Audio listeners, you're missing out. You gotta look at this.
Oh, please don't.
I don't know what I'm watching. All right. Well, these are the moments in Metroid Dread. I will say right off the bat, I love this game. I think it is the best 2D Metroid. I think I prefer 2D Metroids to 3D at this point. I love Prime. And I played Prime 2. Didn't get into 3 Corruption, but
oh my gosh,
they're different types of games
for sure. Absolutely
wildly different. It's really apples and oranges.
Similar in a lot of ways too, though. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, the 3D aspect really changes how everything works, and first person, like, who would have thought that was how that genre was gonna, or that franchise was gonna go. But I prefer this style of game, I think. And these moments that we're about to go over are pretty much the reasons. I just want to interject here. I thought this conversation would come at the end, but I do feel like I have to have a rebuttal to what you're saying. Overall thoughts at this point. I think.
So it is my favorite 2D Metroid. For me, it does supplant Super Metroid, which is something I never thought would happen.
Wow.
And I definitely did, even seeing the trailers, even with all my excitement and hype for this game, I did not think this was going to be the game to do it. But it's undoubtedly, in my opinion, the best 2D Metroid.
Nice.
Especially having just played Super Metroid again and now playing this, it's so good. Anyway, we will get into the reasons why.
Sure.
It's not my favorite Metroid though. Metroid Prime's better, in my opinion. And
I want to replay that one, but it's like pretty much impossible.
Wait till GameCube becomes a part of NSO, and it's going to be $100 a year, $150 a year. Yeah, right.
For one person.
We'll talk about that later this month. But
that's right.
But yeah, I just feel like I have to have that rebuttal because it is my favorite 2D Metroid. I think it is the best, but not my favorite Metroid of all time.
I'm wondering, would you ever consider buying a 3DS to play Samus Returns?
Yeah. If the price was right, absolutely, I would. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because it's the same developers for Samus Returns as this one.
Now, I did also read enough articles that stated this does everything better than Samus Returns did.
Absolutely.
So
it does.
I don't know if it's necessary for me to play it, but I would.
Sure. Cool. All right, well, without further ado, then let's get into my honorable mention. And this is experiment number Z57. And it's the specifically the counter sequences. So this is one of the bosses in the game. It's a huge hulking beast. And it has just like a lot of arms that will like slash at you and shoots things and all sorts of stuff.
Once you the one that is in the background kind of when you fight it? Like its head
it
comes
to
in
the background. Yeah. It's the one that's like it's interfering with the
lava flow.
The lava flow.
Right. Okay.
So it's making everywhere else on the planet cold.
Yeah. This is a good one. This is a good one.
Yeah. Which number one, I just want to point out, I love all of it feels very science fiction, everything that happens in the
100%.
story. And the game always was like, it shows you a problem. It's like, hey, you might have noticed that things are getting a little colder. Like, I wonder what's going on. And then it just breadcrumbs you into these like revelations, like, oh my gosh, like we located the source, and it seems like it's because of the lava flow. And then it just leads you, and then you walk into this room, and this whole monster just has completely taken over this obviously very big heat source that it's trying to manifest itself into. I just think that's so cool. Like such a fun, it's so minimal in its storytelling, but it basically breeds mystery outside of that.
Yeah.
So,
and it changes the areas you've already been through, which is
exactly
cool. It alters how you can traverse through those areas now. And I think that was the coolest when you go back to that first area and everything's frozen. Alteria is the first area, I think, something like that. And it's like you can't, all the places there was water, now it's ice, and it's very
can't
very
go
cool.
through that.
So
my specific part of that is the counter sequences. So once you do enough damage to the monster, it gives you an opportunity to counter, and that brings you into just basically I don't want to say a quick time event, but it's kind of a quick time event, but you just need to rail on it and just shoot as many missiles into it as possible. And this one in particular was so cool because you're just firing at it, doing flips and everything. And then you get on it, and then it
retreats back into the room.
It goes back all the way to the the heat, whatever it's called.
It's like the spire that the heat's coming from.
And you're just like rotating around it, and meanwhile you're just like pummeling it with missiles. That was so cool.
It was cool because like I had tried this boss and died a few times prior to that.
Sure.
And then I get this cutscene, well, not cutscene, but this basically counter scene, where it's like dragging you out, and I'm like, wait, are we going to end up in a different area? Like, where are we going right now? This thing is taking me for a ride. It was very, very cool, man. Good boss fight too.
Yeah. That one was fun.
No, great pick, definitely.
Thank you.
And that's just our honorable mention.
Right.
So I did, like I said, minor things, very vague points here and there, but number 11 for me, and this is what I was alluding to when I said it's better than Super Metroid, and it is how the game controls. It is immediately apparent that like you just feel fast, powerful, like sleek. Samus feels like a capable bounty hunter from the get-go, even though you don't have the power-ups, blah blah blah. It's like you could still do that slide under objects. It's not like you're impeded as you have been in prior games before you get certain power-ups. You know, think of Super Metroid. Before you get the morph ball, you're not getting in any tunnels, but in this she could slide and still make her way around really well. She could still wall jump. There are ways that you can traverse that you hadn't been able to in prior games until you got the right thing, the right power up, the right item. And for me, it's just it felt like a 2D Returnal at times, and like Returnal was phenomenal and just awe-inspiring in how it controlled, and it needed to be because of the type of gameplay. And this did it well. As you get later into the game, it can be extremely punishing, and you really have to know the inputs and push the right one. And
that was a little frustrating sometimes, but
it was, so sometimes the controller layout was a little frustrating. All the bumpers weren't exactly how I thought they would be, as far as like standing in one place and sliding, and the rockets. I would sometimes get those mixed up, but it was only when I first started using them. By the end of the game, you're like, you got it down. I
feel like if you ever took a break, like in the middle, you would be pretty lost and have to relearn some controls.
But I think it's really not just how the game controls, it's the sense of speed as well, as you're controlling the counter and being able to do that on the fly.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it controls so quickly and so well that you'd get to a map port and realize you already went through, like, I'd always be like, wait a minute, I already went through all these rooms. Like, because it just controls so well. You just move at such a good clip, and like you never feel impeded in any way. And going back to Super Metroid and playing that, it's like, man, it's floaty jumps. It's not a fast game at all,
right?
As far as movement goes, but this was just awesome controls. Yeah.
You were booking it. This is definitely the fastest Samus has moved. It honestly felt so. There were some instances, and this isn't one of my points, but. And hopefully it's not one of yours, but there were some of those robot scenes where the camera just pulls out and they're these robots that are just like zipping around kind of as fast as you are. It felt like I was playing Super Smash Brothers because I was just like running around on platforms like Final Destination and just avoiding their attacks and shooting when I could. Yeah. But I was like, oh yeah, like I feel like this is Super Smash Brothers and I'm playing as Samus in Smash.
Because you'd get a room that was basically like a Smash arena.
Right.
And it's like, here's a Chozo soldier. Like,
yep.
There you go.
That was fun.
Yeah. It was cool. Yeah.
Good pick. Yeah. That is definitely one of the first things that you notice playing this game. Mm-hmm. So cool. All right. Well, my number 10 is melting the face off of an Emmy.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
This was always so satisfying to do. You get the pulse cannon, Omega,
Omega blaster, Omega
stream. Yeah. There's like an upgrade to it I never knew like what kind of upgrade I was going to get if I destroyed an Emmy or got a upgrade ball. Like it all kind of like, am I going to get a suit? Am I going to get a new power up? I never really figured that out.
There was no real tell in the Emmy. Like they did have somewhat different behaviors. Not but they were all basically the same mold. Some of them had like more abilities than other ones.
Like that one had a pulse thing that could like stop you in your tracks.
Right. Yeah. But it never was like, oh, you're gonna get that now.
Right.
Yeah. Which I get what you're saying. It was never, you could never guess what you were gonna get from defeating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the mechanic I really loved the camera zoom and then just like just down the sights kind of thing. That would look cool in 3D because the 3DS version looked really amazing. The way it captured the 3D backgrounds. But yeah, melting the face off, you're just pouring it the pulse stream or whatever into it. And just then
fully automatic, like pelting it.
Yeah. Fully automatic, just blowing them up. It was challenging and you had to kind of puzzle your way through some of those instances, but it was very satisfying when you did that.
Yeah, it was challenging, surprisingly. So some of them wouldn't stop moving quickly until you started pelting them.
Right.
And so that was like, this thing's going to get you if you don't hit it in exactly the right spot. Exactly. And even if it like moved it for a split second, it would start running again.
Yep.
Yeah, it was cool.
So that was one thing. You mentioned the controls. How did it feel with the analog stick for you versus like, I don't know, usually these kind of 2D games use the D-pad to move around, but that wasn't an option really. Did you find any difficulty with that?
No, not at all. I felt like it was spot on.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely didn't feel anything. I used a Pro controller and it was perfect.
That's probably the way to play. So I played in handhelds, but I have the Hori Split Pad Pro.
Oh, right.
So it was, pretty big. And it was especially.
I feel like you missed out playing it in handheld.
Just with seeing it on a TV.
Oh, the backgrounds and some of those. Yeah. The depth like going on. And I feel like the planet gets built out so much more just on a big screen, being able to see like the backgrounds. And
I might pop it in and see how that plays.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I guess it was good to have the analog stick when you're like aiming because you needed 360 movement for that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Good pick. My number 10 though is the intro and the onboarding. I really liked the intro. Instantly catches you up on what has happened in the story so far. It's not really necessary to have played these prior games because Metroid was never really a story heavy game, not during the gameplay itself, right? But typically it's like you get the story at the beginning, you get the story at the end. And this really does a good job of summarizing everything that happened before this game. And then once you land on ZDR, plus like that that cutscene they do is just so cool. They make Samus so cool in this game.
Oh yes,
but I'm sure that'll come up later.
I will be talking about that.
So I also liked that once you land, there's a lot of little text that pops up. It's not intrusive at all. It just gives you little like tips that would help you out throughout the journey. So it is good to read it and retain it, because some of the stuff that comes into play really will help you avoid getting lost later on. But yeah, it just felt like this is exactly how a game should get you on board. It's not some like glaring tutorial that takes 25 minutes and, you know, breaks up what you want to do is play the game. You want the action. And this just kind of gives you a little blurb as you're doing it. Like, hey, do this thing and it'll help you. You could slide under these things. And as soon as you do it, it disappears. And like, that's it. Yeah. And you're still exploring the world as it's telling you these things, which I thought was cool. Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. It never felt intrusive, you know, and a lot of games are like, it's too intrusive. The onboarding is so like in your face sometimes.
No, this is definitely seamless into the game.
Yeah.
No, that's a great pick. I think this game absolutely did a great job of doing that. The intro that it gave me is the like very broad level that I had in my head anyway. Like I couldn't have told you intricacies of the story up to that point, but I knew the very basic like 5 points up to that.
Yeah, same. So, yeah, like exactly. That's
I mean, it's been 20 years since the previous
Fusion,
game, basically.
Right? Fusion,
yeah. Very good.
Thanks.
All right, my number 9 is, I mean, it's the end of the game. I'm just grouping everything about that, and I'm sure there will be.
That's your number 9.
It's my number 9. So right. I mean,
I guess I'll move it to my number 9 too, because we could talk about it now.
Well, I mean, I have one thing broken outside of that I'm not going to mention here, but I want to say the crashing the ship, just that whole, just like scream that Samus does for a sustained like 15 seconds as she is just destroying Ravenbeak with the absorption. And so that's cool. She crashes the ship. I'm skipping something, and then him transforming into his monstrosity form, and the game just like going into the very tried and true view that we were talking about with the Emmys. Doesn't say a word. It just goes into that view, and you know instinctively what to do. Yeah. And I thought that was so cool how they led into how you defeat his final transformation, because at the end of that fight, you know, you have fought this 3-phase final boss.
It's not an easy boss either. This is an intense boss.
Yeah. It's an intense boss. I admittedly died a lot, but once I figured out every single phase and how to like get by, I don't think I got hit. Like maybe once or twice. Good the actual you, like last time I did it.
Good for you.
I remember seeing like my health and being like, oh, okay, great. The game will give you that tip. Like there is no attack that is like unavoidable, basically.
Right. Yeah, I know. And that kind of rubs that in. So when you get hit, you feel worse about it.
Exactly.
You're like, really? But I mean, that's not unavoidable? Right.
Yeah, because they were, I mean, none of these are on my list, but there were some things that like he will throw out that big sun and it is like impossible to dodge.
But you can power bomb it.
Yeah. You just power bomb and you're done. Like
you get power ups from it. It even gives you like health and missiles. Yeah.
Right. Because that's anytime he threw out the purple version, which was like really slow moving. I was already shooting it with missiles because I was like, this is a ton of health. Like this is fantastic.
Oh, it's like, free power up. I would like sometimes if I took too many hits, I'd draw that first like form out to like get more purple balls.
Yep. But yeah, when that sun version came out, I encountered it one time. I was like, there's like a million bullets around here. This is ridiculous. Yeah. And then I was like, why don't I try a bomb? And then that is the solve.
Yeah.
That whole fight basically.
Oh my gosh. Right. Yeah. So I agree. I move this to my number 9. Okay. Just so we can talk about it now. The Ravenbeak fight is just incredible. The 3 stages are all great. They're all challenging in their own way. I only had to fight him like 3 times, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I beat my head against it.
So the third time, that's at 7 minutes, I bet, that I was faster than you.
But, so I think the game records only your successful attempts at anything.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So that's not it then. Yeah, going through and fighting him the first 2 times, I think I got to the second time I got to the third phase and I was like, okay, like I'm ready for this now. And then the third time I got to that phase and I was on and no more extra energy bars. I had like 50 something health total, right?
Wow.
I missed the counter. I missed the counter cue because I was like not ready for it. I'm like, oh my God, there's another counter. It's like, why did I not think that was happening? Of course it's happening, right?
Right.
Luckily, I managed to not get hit and get him back into the counter phase and take him out.
Jeez.
And then that scream, man, that like it's just so like epic. And man, Samus, right? Like she's so cool in this game.
She is so cool. Yeah. This is the coolest she's ever been.
For sure. 100%. And that the suit, is that what you were avoiding talking about? All right. Well, maybe I won't talk about it now, but I'll save that for whenever you talk about it too. But I agree. He then gets transformed by an X parasite and starts coming back at you in this final form.
That's like a Resident Evil boss at that point.
There are a few of these during the game that are like Resident Evil bosses. But yeah, you just get to feed him a face full of like a mile wide blaster shot, and it's so you feel so good about it. You're just like, eat it, you know? Oh,
because I was like, are you seriously gonna have me fight this guy for like a 4th form? But then it rewards you very handsomely with that sequence.
It was cathartic, you know. Yeah. It was like you didn't feel that 4th form was really just like to let all your frustrations out on his face.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it was great, man. I loved it. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So that's both of our number 9s. I'm guessing
it is now.
Yeah, it is now.
Yeah, for sure.
So moving on then to my number 8 is morph balling into Kraid's belly button. This is so.
Did you do this?
I didn't do it, but then I saw a video and then I was like, "That's a cool."
I was like, "Wow, you broke the game! Like you broke sequence." I did not break sequence.
Yeah, because I guess usually you would have to get the power or the bombs before encountering Kraid, which I did not do.
Yeah,
and I didn't even know you could do this, but I guess was it part of Super Metroid? I think that's how some people knew about it.
Yeah,
that you like, hey, maybe you can do this, and it turns out you can go into his belly button and just put a bunch of bombs in there, and it does not feel good for him.
Yeah, I beat Kraid the old-fashioned way in Super Metroid, so
okay. Perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty cool. I do like that little sequence break, which is really tough to do. This game, it's not linear, but it is very good at pointing you in the right direction, which I appreciated. I never felt lost. Super Metroid, like, you could be wandering for a while.
Sure.
But I mean, maybe it's because I'm older and I just don't have time to like wander games as much. But yeah.
I mean, I appreciate that about the checkpointing. Like, I don't want to go back to a save station. Just put me in front of the door where I died.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that was great. Especially with like some of the Emmys.
Yeah.
But like this, we're digressing from the point. The point I was trying to make is that like, no, breaking sequences on like you'd have to actively try to break sequence in this game because they do a good job of pointing you where you need to go.
Absolutely.
Good pick though. My number 8 is that the Chozo are alive. Like,
This is like the first time we've ever seen that.
It's a huge reveal. It's a huge reveal because they are thought to be these ancient civilization that's no longer around, that once like ruled the universe, and they like created the Metroids. They're kind of mythic, like brought their own downfall, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? No, they didn't. There's still some around. Like they're just on this planet. And maybe outside of it, it never really got into that. I did think it was interesting that they were like, oh, there was also different Chozo tribes, and they are not always getting together. They're at odds with each other at times. And like, there was a lot of lore added that I appreciated because, as I mentioned, Metroid never had that sort of depth.
Yeah. I didn't know any of this stuff really. Just knew the Chozo. That's it.
Right. And it was kind of like, this is how Samus got her suit, but it's really vague. Like you never know the ins and outs of it until this game tells you them.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know if that's on your list, so maybe I'll
no, not really. I mean, we can talk freely about all that stuff.
It'll come up later.
Okay.
Let's put it that way. But no, I thought this was a huge reveal. And even when you see Ravenbeak at the beginning, it's kind of like, is this just another person in like Chozo armor?
Right.
It's kind of open for interpretation, but there's a point where you meet the Mawkin. What was his name? Quiet Robe.
Yes.
And he is a pretty chill dude. Willing to help you out, and he's 100% a Chozo and confirms like Ravenbeak is a Chozo,
right?
That
goes into the tribes like the Mawkin,
right? Gives you the whole
like
background.
That science tribe, yeah.
It was cool. It was very, very cool.
Yeah. That's a great pick. I love it.
Thanks.
All right. Well, my number 7. This is also a Kraid related one, but this is just Samus. So cool. Nonchalantly, nice. As nonchalantly as possible. Kraid is just like chained up and like, he's a huge, like, I don't know, 20 stories tall monstrosity. And he just like can't move or anything. And then he just gets like as close to you. Samus knows exactly how far away to stand to be out of his range. And he's just screaming in your face. And then she just takes her blaster and then just shoots him right in the mouth.
Oh, like a no look shot.
Right.
She does that a few times.
She does.
The whole cutscenes with the bosses, like the counter cutscenes that we were talking about, and those ending sequences, they're just like powerful, powerful stuff, man. Because you might have struggled during the fight, but there is no sign of that when it ends.
Nope.
Like she's always has this little like no look shot, or just like don't care, like you're dead to me, dude. It's very cool, man.
Oh yeah. I can remember her like blowing something up, like some enemy, and then just like flipping down and doing the superhero land.
Like, what is it? Cool guys don't look at explosions.
That's it,
right?
Yeah.
Cool guys don't look at explosions. They blow things up and then walk away.
She did like all of those things combined into one pose.
Yeah.
So cool.
No, it is very, very cool. So my number 7 is enemy design. I felt like it's something that you never got tired of, which happened in prior Metroid games. You kind of saw repeated enemies, definitely in Prime. I'd say that's the one big fault that people
space pirates.
Right, space pirates everywhere. I mean, yes, there's natural life on that planet, but for the most part, you're dealing with space pirates all the time. But in this,
like for 3 games, honestly.
yeah, exactly. I felt like it wasn't even just the unique look between all the different enemies. It was also that how they fit into their respective environments. You go to certain areas and it's like those enemies seem to have qualities that would have naturally evolved in that sort of environment, which is really, really cool. It gives more life to the planet, makes it seem more genuine. I also felt like they had all their animations were really well done, and the different timings for the counters I thought were cool, because you may have multiple flying enemies between all the biomes that you go into, but the counter's not always the same. Like they move differently. They're going to come at you at different times. Some might go straight for you, but other ones might move around a little bit and then go for you with that. And there's a glimmer when it's time to counter.
Sure.
I mean, I think if you made it this far, you probably played the game, so these things. But I did think that was really well done and really intelligently done. That, not just the variety, but how they moved, how that counter was timing. It did a good job of keeping the game fresh. It fits in with what I said about controls, because not only did you have to be good and did the controls have to be responsive, but you had to be good at timing everything. And when you get so good that it's a smooth thing to go through these enemies and these levels, it gives you a sense of power that's really few games can pull off.
I mean, that's always been a hallmark of this series, and pretty much any Metroidvania is whenever you get a new power up, you will just demolish the previous area and can run through it. And I think that is super evident in the screw attack, which is one of the last upgrades that you get. You just melt enemies. It seems like it's the most powerful thing in the game.
Yeah, there are enemies that would take 5 missiles and 100 10 charge blasters, but But you
I just
literally
jump
screw
into
attack
them.
them once and they're gone.
They're
Yeah,
gone.
exactly.
The X parasite remains, but I mean,
Yeah.
just absorb it
Yeah,
and you're done.
yeah. You become Mario at that point. Just jump on their head.
That's yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my number 6 is one of kind of in the vein of your meta picks.
Okay.
It is getting unstuck. So
Okay.
there are a lot of times in Metroid games where you don't know where to go. Admittedly, it didn't happen too frequently for me in this game because, like you said, it does a really good way of signposting you, pointing you in the right direction. If you're going somewhere and you're like, I've already been in that elevator, but I just beat this boss and the game like dumped me out in front of this elevator, I should probably go in it right now. And that was 9 times out of 10 exactly what they wanted you to do. But there were probably like 2, maybe 3 times where I was kind of running around the map thinking like, I don't really know where to go. It has a great feature. I don't know if you ever used it, where you can go to the map and then highlight very specific like doors or blocks basically, and it'll show all of those on the map.
Oh,
did you use that function?
No, not at all.
So like if you get a new ability like the wave beam or something, you can go to a wave beam door, press Y, and then it'll
cool.
highlight those on the map, and you can zoom out and see them in all the different biomes.
Oh, that's
and
neat.
It shows you like, hey, like here's a door that you can now go through, basically. Right. So that was really helpful for getting unstuck at a couple of places.
Yeah, definitely. So this is kind of an aside. Do you know about how many like energy bars you had when you completed the game, or missiles you had?
So I know my item percentage was 44%.
Okay, I don't know what mine was.
Okay,
I just
I had.
You probably have more than me, maybe.
I want to say about 8 energy tanks, and then I was up to, I want to say like 144 missiles.
Okay,
somewhere
because somebody
there.
Had asked. Super Swiss 304 asked who had more collectibles.
Right,
and going by that, I'm pretty sure you did.
Yeah,
I know
I had a lot of energy. Like I completed like I think 2 or 3 of the 4-part energy tanks.
Oh wow,
yeah,
very good. Yeah,
and then I mean they just give you a couple energy tanks. So I think I was like at 8 or so. I can let you know after this.
No, I think you definitely did better than I did. Yeah. Good job. 7 minutes faster, guys.
I never felt like I was out of
faster.
That is good. I never felt like I was out of missiles like ever.
Yeah, no, me neither. I never felt like there was a certain point. I mean, really never you feel like you're going to run out of missiles.
Right.
Like
just
even when you first get missiles, just use them. Yeah, exactly. You'll get more. Like keep countering things. You'll get more.
That's it.
No, I'm just curious. Yeah. So basically we both did any percent runs and mine was 7 minutes faster.
Yes. Okay. You won the overall time for beating this game.
I mean, you did find more.
That happened
but
when I was in 6th grade playing Donkey Kong 64. We all got the game, all my friends in the group, and I was determined to beat it first. And I did not. I was like a week behind the person who finished it first, but I did get 100% before anyone else.
Right, cool.
And I don't think anyone else tried. So again, like
that's what's going to happen here too. If you go for 100%. Yeah. I will not be 100% in this game.
That's right. 101%. I'm sorry.
Oh, for DK. Yeah. DK. Anyway, I'm not rapping. No more singing out of me. Not like last episode, dude. Yeah.
Do the Metroid rap.
What's the Metroid rap?
I don't know.
Yeah.
No, yes. A remix of that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah. Lay that beat down. So, my number, are we on 6? I think so. Yeah, we kind of got off on the tangent there. My number 6 is, all the power-ups in any Metroid are good. But for me, I think, gosh, and this goes for most Metroids. I always get this feeling towards the end of the game. But for me, it's when you get the space jump. And how it just never breaks the game is mind-blowing to me, especially when you get that and the screw attack. And you're just like going through blocks, going wherever the heck you want. Like you're jumping off into the moon. And like, seriously, you are. You're just like infinite. You get an infinite jump. And the ability to like break through walls with it, right? Very specific walls, but still.
Sure.
And it's like, man, how are these games always so well designed that there are parts you've been going past the entire game multiple times? There's one specific tunnel that you use a morph ball to get through. And you go down into the water and you get a power up earlier in the game, and you go back through this area like 2 or 3 times before you get the space jump. And you know there are other areas around it, but you can't get to them until you get the space jump and screw attack. And then all of a sudden you get it, and it's like the whole map opens up to you, but it never breaks anything, which like blows my mind, dude. It blows my mind. And it's like, not only does it not break anything, there are all these areas that you've been going by countless times that now you have access to. And it's just so cool. It's so cool. Yeah, like I said, all the power-ups are always good. I felt like the implementation of power-ups were really good to open doors. It wasn't just like, hey, new blaster, shoot the new door and go through. It was like, hey, you get these missiles and you have, it was still kind of not mini game-y, but there was more to it than just point and shoot. It was like aim at these 5 targets and hit them, or do a triple. There was more dynamism to it. Like do the charge shot once you get the 3 blaster, the 3-prong one, and then hit that block, and the block like slides back quickly and falls into place. And there was just a lot more dynamism to that sort of thing. And I really appreciated the power-ups in this, but it's really just how awe-inspiring it is, the level design, and none of this is game breaking whatsoever.
Well, that's the thing, because you would get new power-ups and do something like the block, and it would break. Like, you can't get back that way anymore.
Right.
And the game did that very specifically so that it would lead you to the next place. There were a lot of times where I was like, I know I can get back there through the, like, I've been on the other side of this door, but it's broken now, or like it's frozen, or something is preventing me from doing this. And it's because they're guiding you very subtly to the next area that you actually should be going into. Right. So clever. Like, imagine the amount of planning that had to go into making all of that work, and putting teleporters in specific. That's unbelievable to me.
Yeah. Like, it's like the best kind of puzzle creation, that I've ever seen. Yeah. It's
amazing. They had to, like, obviously play test that so many times, because they need to seal off whatever place. And we don't want the player to go this way at all anymore.
I picture like a huge whiteboard with like the map just drawn out on it.
Right.
Like they're all just Charlie Day standing in front of it. Right.
We got to block this up because they can't go here.
Right.
Idiot. All right. Well, my number 5. So the Emmys, love-hate relationship with them. They are fun encounters, but they are stressful encounters. And I think I was kind of stressed going into this game, knowing that they were going to be a part of this, right?
Pepe Sylvia.
What's that?
Pepe Sylvia. When he's in front of the whiteboard, he's like, Pepe Sylvia. Everywhere you go, it's Pepe Sylvia. Well, guess what? There is no Pepe Sylvia. Anyway, sorry.
Trivia. All right.
There you go.
So for the Emmys, I mean, I was kind of stressed going into it, thinking like, oh, they're supposed to be stalking me this whole game. They put them in specific areas. That solves. Yes, that makes it way more tolerable. And you get a cloak in this game where it uses your, what is it, Aeon ability. Yeah. I think that the way they did that cloak was pretty cool. It gets used up faster as you're moving. But my specific entry here is anytime I was cloaking, running away from an Emmy, and going into the morph ball into the little corner, and every single time, and it's by design, I'm sure, the Emmy would just like crawl up to that and then scan the area, look directly in your freaking morph ball fades, and move on. And it was such a heart-pounding moment, because you're like just looking at your Aeon ability just decrease.
Yeah, that's what it is. You watch that little bar for Aeon and you're like, please last a little while longer.
Yeah. And please move up this way or down this way, and don't come back. And oh my gosh, it was great when you actually pulled those sequences off. Yeah,
even when like you said, even when after it scanned, you want it to go a very specific direction, because if it goes another direction, you're going to have to get out of that hole, and you're not going to have your Aeon to do it. And you only get this stuff back by moving. But if you move, it attracts the Emmy. Oh man, it was like very intense situation.
Just a push and pull of design work there. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. Yeah.
I was definitely stressed every single time going in.
Yeah.
But you do it enough times and okay, like I can make this work.
The ones that really got me stressed were the ones with water in them.
Totally.
Until you got the gravity suit.
Exactly.
But the ones that didn't have water, I'm like, I can move around this Emmy well enough. You never felt like that. You knew you could get around it. How'd you do with the counters, by the way, on the Emmys?
I would say 1 out of 15.
Wow, really? Oh my gosh. I feel like I was pretty good at it.
I was not good.
I would say 1 out of half that, 1 out of like 8 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I was, because I had read a lot of people saying, oh, I have such a hard time with this. And like you have 2 chances at the counter.
You do.
Every time.
I only got the second one time.
Really?
1 time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man. This is that returnal. It's that returnal reflex that's coming in handy, man.
But there was nothing like that. You couldn't predict when it was going to happen. It was different.
You could. No, you could definitely, because as soon as that, yes, especially the second one, I felt like, and maybe it was just me, but I felt like the Emmy grabs you and there's a time between that and the first counter. And I felt like it was the same period of time between that and the second counter.
I think it was different every time.
Okay. I don't know. I felt like it was.
I mean, your chances
I
were
feel like it was different.
Good.
No, I feel like it changed, but I felt like the time between the first and the second was always like not the same.
About the same.
Right. From like the instance it grabs you to the first, and then the first to the second was about the same. Does that make sense? Am I wording this correctly?
I think I know what you mean.
All right. But do our
I had a hard
know
time
what
with
I mean?
I mean, if you did not play this game, you don't know anything that we're talking about.
We're like going really deep here.
Right.
Imagine like listen to this and not play the game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They probably
would. Like the
nobody
Hades
would
booms.
listen
Like,
to this.
what are you talking about?
Right? Nobody would listen to this if they haven't played. Right? If you're listening to this and you haven't played the game, email us at listoffpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Twitter at listoff_podcast and on Instagram at listoffpodcast. And if you're listening to this anyway, go ahead and find us. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. That would be the coolest thing you could do. You guys are all cool anyway, just for listening. We love you. So thank you for that.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Sorry. I hate like being a shill for ourselves sometimes, but like, I feel like I also don't do it a lot. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, moving right along. My number 5 is the loading screens. All right. So people bring this up as a negative, right? Loading screens in 2021, like they are going the way of the dodo. I thought these loading screens were super cool, dude. They reminded me of like the 80s and 90s anime look, especially some of like the earlier cut scenes you'd get in like earlier Metroids or Ninja Gaidens. And yeah, it was just like a lot of nostalgia to the 16-bit days. And it did a lot to add to what we've discussed already about Samus's badassery. Like she is cold, man. She is a cold-blooded killer. She goes up an elevator and she just stands there holding her like blaster arm.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah,
I was like, you mean the tips? Like after you die from an enemy?
No, like when you're going up the elevator, when you're traversing between biomes, and she's just standing there, and like the flash of like the different like floors going by her. And then when she's on the tram and it's just like that anime background, right? Like really nondescript background. And she's just like standing there, like silent. It really gave you the feel of isolation that these games like really dive into.
Yes.
And on top of that, it made you feel like you could handle that isolation. You could handle being on your own. She seemed calm, confident. And it's so weird to put that sort of context in a screen where she's not really moving, but it was that non-movement, that non-speaking, like just it was like a confidence to it.
It reminds me a little bit of Qui-Gon Jinn when he's just like sitting in front of the blast doors.
Well, that really worked out for him.
I know.
you mean
when he's just like sitting there meditating, waiting for the doors to open,
for
and
Darth Maul.
Darth Maul's like pacing and like wasting energy.
No, Samus fared better than Qui-Gon.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, maybe not a good comparison. Poor Qui-Gon. Rip.
But
buddy.
like that is the best thing. Like for Qui-Gon, he should be just sitting there resting and meditating instead of like getting all riled up like Obi-Wan. Oh,
I mean, who's
anyway.
to say? Who's to say it was the best? He ended up dead. So
Yeah,
maybe he could have tried something else. I don't know.
This is true. Who knows?
Yeah. Anyway, the loading screens are cool.
Yes. I don't know. I had a lot of Emmy deaths that reminded me of Qui-Gon deaths. So
oh, that's true. You like calmly wait outside the door, contemplating if you should go through it or
right.
not. The Emmy doors were cool.
Yeah.
All the doors were cool.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's Metroid. We're getting into the next area.
It's not a point on mine, but since I brought up the doors, the glass when you shoot it, the shatter effect and the sound was really neat. Actually, when you get like the plasma blaster and you get like the wave blaster. And you would shoot those doors that kind of had a glass covering on it, like the purple and green glass covering.
Yes.
And when you shatter it, there's like if you look at the door when you shatter it, it's really like glass shattering. And there's a cool sound to it too. And it's so subtle, but it was really, really cool, man.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Very cool. All right. Well, my number 4 is using a power bomb. These are so cool. It's just
everything
obliterates the entire screen and everything,
and alters the environment at times.
Right. Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, bringing down just like huge pieces of equipment. I mean, it's just a huge area of effect where everything but Samus is obliterated. And like I said before, it was the one of the best ways to deal with some of the attacks from Ravenbeak. Because
Ravenclaw.
Ravenclaw. Oh,
no, it's Ravenbeak.
I got confused for a second. But because I think the first couple of times fighting him, I was like, I'm just going to use a power bomb and this will be over.
Yeah. Okay.
Nothing really.
Wouldn't that be great?
Touched him.
Yeah.
But they were still very useful.
Yeah. No, they were cool. I hate to do this. I do kind of disagree with you. I felt like they didn't fit in when you did use them because the effect, like the actual like visual effect, felt very out of place. But I had the same feeling in Super Metroid when you used them and stuff. I just felt like it didn't fit in. It's like the whole world went stagnant and it turned to like almost an orange.
Right.
It just, I don't know. It seems like such a minor complaint, but it always seemed out of place, right?
I think it's better when there's like a bunch of enemies that got obliterated and then just like all this stuff is coming at you.
The environmental effects, like the times you have to use it to go to certain areas, I thought that was cool because you can see, okay, it has like a very physical effect on this world. And that was very good to see.
I could see what you mean at being like kind of lackluster in just everyday use though.
Right. So you said you tried using the power bomb on Ravenbeak, and not to go back to that fight, but I forgot to mention one thing. At the end of the first phase, when Samus like uppercuts him in the gut and gives him a full-on blaster shot, that is so cool. And
Very
then
much.
from the first to the second phase, when Samus like shoots off his wing and he just tears off the other one. It's like so epic, dude.
I know.
It's so epic. Oh man, I'm getting like chills talking about it. Dude.
Right.
Yeah, it was so cool.
I watched that. So I would skip that, scene every time, every subsequent time.
Yeah.
But it was cool seeing it, and he is unmoving, like with his face. He's just rips it off.
Yeah, no pain.
Nope.
So my number 4 is an odd one, but all the backgrounds, all the environments in this are cool. You go into a room and there's so much depth in the background, and there's a lot of foreshadowing too. There are times where like you're standing by a steel door, like a steel door is in the background, and you'll see it like get knocked in.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, something big's back there. And eventually, you're going to fight that thing as a boss, right? But specifically, the background that I thought was the coolest was pulling into Burenia.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you recall this one. It is the water kind of biome.
Yeah.
And the first time you pull into it, you get that cool loading screen that I just talked about. But you also come in and it's raining.
Yes.
And there is the big water, like the waves lapping up against the like surface that you're pulling into.
Right.
And it just felt so cool, man. Like it was just really well depicted, and I love like rain anyway and water.
Yeah.
But it felt kind of like the only cool part of Attack of the Clones, when not to make another Star Wars aside, but when Obi-Wan's going to Camino,
right,
with the cloners, and it's all pouring rain. You got those big monstrous waves hitting their facility, and it's just, man, it just plays into that, like, being alone on an alien planet, and like there's an ever-present threat, and just how like cool the whole sci-fi aspect of it is.
Sure.
And it just felt like so neat, like going into that one area and seeing all that happening. And it, you had seen like lush greenery prior to that. You had seen kind of more cold, like laboratory things, but then you go into this area and it's like totally different from what you had experienced prior. And it just gives you the feel like this is a planet. This is a planet that has weather. It has its own things going on. It has different environments. And yeah, it was cool, man.
That was one of the first times you see like a very pulled out shot of where you actually are.
Right. That's true too. Yeah.
And then as you go into that planet, I think if you go like all the way to the left-hand side, I remember just a sequence, like it looked like you kind of could almost go outside, and there's like a glass, like atrium kind of thing. And same thing. There's just like waves lapping in the far distance, and rain is pouring down on the glass.
Yeah.
You get a huge sense of, ain't much better in here. There's a bunch of there's a hurricane going on outside, and we're just like in the space station with all manner of monsters. So cool. I think to that point, also not really on my list, but when you're first going into, what is the like really regal world where all the Chozo soldiers are? Does
it start with an F? Ferenia? Is it Ferenia?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Wherever that is, as you're going into the pearly gates, there's like huge Chozo statues, and it just like pulls out, and you see
that's Ferenia.
Ferenia.
Yeah.
There's a whole like basically like a golden palace almost look to it.
And they have all like the statues on that exterior of it.
Exactly.
It's very like,
just goes for miles.
Yeah, a lot of depth. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Those were cool sequences. So probably looks even more impressive on a TV. Absolutely.
It does. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's pros and cons, right? Like those scenes are very impressive on a TV, but there are a lot of times where it's apparent you're playing a Switch game and not a PS5 or Xbox Series X game. So it's pros and cons. Yeah.
They do a lot with what they have.
They do. This game does a lot with what it has. Yeah.
I did get some slowdown, admittedly. I do want to point that out. Anytime there were a lot of enemies on screen, it would dip a little bit.
Really? I only had slowdown later in the game.
Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe since you played docked, it helped that out a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I don't know how
it
much
probably did. You're right. Yeah. There was only one point where I had slowdown, and it was like way late in the game.
Sure.
Yeah.
My turn?
Your turn.
Okay. Number 3. This is a big one. After getting the whole description of the events and how they unfolded from Quiet Robe, Samus just says in her native tongue, like, basically, I got this. I'm going to get it done.
Yeah.
I don't have the exact quote, but that hearing her speak just, it caught me by surprise, because she never talks.
Right.
I never played Other M, where she's talking all the time.
Right, all the time, yeah.
She never talks in these games, ever. I mean, like in the intro, she's like, it's from her perspective. She's describing everything that's happened. And that's usually their method of her communication. But to actually hear her speak and in her actual native language,
and Chozo,
native tongue, crazy.
It was cool. That was very, very cool. That's actually, so my number 3 has that. That's part of it.
Okay.
I thought it was really cool. And you're right. Like, Quiet Robe explains the threat and what Ravenbeak's whole plan is and what he's trying to do. And she's just like, I won't let that happen. Like, not on my watch, kind of, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it was cool. But my number 3 is the fact that, Samus speaks, but also, I guess we're getting into this now. Samus is a Metroid, and she has a father,
right?
Which, like, not really, not really a father, but parts of him are in her. So I guess
it's like an IVF situation.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Really consider that person part of
I thought that was like, really, you're gonna call yourself dad? Like, where were you when I learned to ride a bike? Like, yeah. Right. Because I thought it was interesting. He uses that terminology, and then it kind of shows these flashbacks of like her being created. Right. And she apparently got like his heart or part of his heart or like a clone of his heart, because it showed like his heart and her heart.
Oh gosh.
It was very weird to like decipher what those pictures were trying to show us. And then it zooms in on her face and he's like, "You disappoint me, daughter." And it was like da da da.
Right.
But it was very cool. I thought that whole kind of story being filled in. And then the fact she's a Metroid too. There were a lot of revelations here, but that was huge. That was big time. I'll probably talk more about that in the next one.
Okay.
But the fact like gave you a better idea of who the heck Samus is. Mm-hmm. And the fact she speaks Chozo, and she's able to carry a conversation in a limited regard.
Sure. Yeah. Very, very cool revelations there.
Yeah.
And now we can make the joke of, I like Metroid. She's so good at killing aliens.
It fits. Right? Yeah. Oh, Metroid is so tough, isn't she?
Yeah. She is.
Yeah.
Like the Zelda Link debacle.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Like, look, I get it. People think Link is Zelda, right? Yeah. I've even made that mistake. I've played almost every Legend of Zelda out there, but like sometimes you just call it the title. Like somebody could say that to me, and I don't know if I'd pick up on the fact that they were wrong unless they said it multiple times,
Right.
Yeah. Because it's like, yeah, Zelda, I get you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Green tunic, I got it.
Yeah, cool. We're cool. Pink dress? Wait, what? Yeah.
So is that your number 3 also then?
Mm-hmm.
Essentially? Okay. All right. Well, then my number 2, you have a 1 in 8 chance of doing this. I have a 1 in 15, but it is countering an Emmy.
Yeah.
That was so satisfying when I managed to actually get that done.
Yeah.
I didn't always use that like counter to the best of my ability.
Mm-hmm.
I would slide it under his legs and then probably get caught in the next 2 seconds.
Well, some of them, so early on they stay stunned longer than later. I mean, like I think it was like the blue one or the purple one. I countered, and it's like almost immediately they're back on their heels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you did land that, it was cool, and then you could at least see a little more, maybe get to an enemy door and get out of there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved getting that timing down.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. The counter, and I'm not trying to like brag or anything. Like, oh, look at me! Like,
I mean, I never died by an enemy at all. So
I honestly was just surprised. Never died by an enemy at all.
Never.
All right.
No, I'm pretty sure I died 1,000 times at least.
Not 1,000, but I get what you're saying. And I'm really like, I was surprised that I wasn't able to counter like every other time, or, even once every 5 times, but like, I'd have to say it was probably less than once every 10. And that surprised me because I did not expect to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And you can't just button mash it. Like if you push the button at the wrong time, she like waves her arm and misses, or like kicks it in the shoulder and like does nothing. Yeah, it's super pathetic.
Yeah.
You're like, I failed. Yeah.
I have a question for you. Can you counter an Emmy underwater without the gravity suit?
Yeah, I think so. Wait, no, really? I don't know if I was caught underwater.
Okay.
Yes.
I got caught a couple times.
I think I did counter.
Because everything slows down.
I think it was like the blue one, and I countered it underwater.
Wow.
And that was one that like got me almost immediately afterwards because I couldn't get away.
Okay.
Because like you move like you're underwater.
Right.
But you could counter it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. There you go. 1 in 8, baby. Let's go. So I'm going to use this opportunity to move my number 1 to here. And my number 1 is the Emmys in general. I felt like I was afraid they'd be a nuisance. I was afraid it would be a pain. I don't typically like games that's not true because I'm playing through Alien Isolation again, but it could be done incorrectly where they just are in your way constantly. You can't avoid them, and they're stalking you everywhere you go. And that, like, imagine an Emmy room, but the whole map was that. That'd be a problem. Or imagine an Emmy room that was even just bigger. It would have been more of a nuisance. I mean, I felt like they were the perfect size. The area they covered was like the perfect size, and really made it to where they weren't that big of a hassle. They really added a lot to the gameplay.
Sure.
I thought the whole look of the rooms was cool. The whole feel of the rooms,
the like kind of grainy grayscale.
Totally grayscale, chilly, cold, like they are. The sounds they made.
The sound, my God,
that, like,
they use that in the marketing, and it gave me chills hearing it in the commercial.
Yeah, so they had like that little chirp.
Yeah, and you could use that. You could hear where they were. Like, oh, I can hear them on the right side or left side,
and you could,
how close they are.
Yeah, you really could. And there was the whole cat and mouse, the tension. And to me, the tension was magnified when you had the means to take them out. We talked about it when you brought up the Omega cannon, but it didn't go away. It was almost more tension because now it gives you this little like blurb, like, oh, by the way, the Emmys are attracted to you when you have this cannon after you get it. So they know exactly where you are and they are coming for you. Yeah. And you have to find an area where you have a long enough stretch to aim and shoot the shield off their face before you can finally take them out. And it takes a significant amount of time, an increasing amount of time as you fight later Emmys to melt that face shield. And sometimes they're like inches away from you and they're starting to stand up and you're just like still blasting them like, please go away.
Oh, that was so satisfying getting the last second though.
Yeah, because then it pops, but then you still have to run again and get to a space where you could charge up that final shot to kill them, because they're not dead once you blast their face shield. You have to charge up like a powerful strike to take them out. But man, so satisfying when you did, but really like heart pounding moments leading up to that. And yeah, I really think the Emmys were great. The implementation of them was phenomenal, except for the red one. A little disappointing.
I don't remember. Was that one that just got taken care of?
That was the one where you just like touch it.
That's right.
Yeah. It's like, it's so funny because I think they tell you like, oh, there are 7 Emmys, and like you get through 6, you're like, oh my God, this next one's going to be a bear.
Right.
That's
really. Right. Yeah. Oh man.
But I was really impressed with the Emmys as a whole.
Right. Yeah, I love them. I think the thing about them that I love the most was the sound. That was just chilling and useful to really locate where they were.
Yeah, and then once they see you too, the change in music, it gets really intense after that. Yeah. And even though you're confident in Samus's movement and how easy it controls and your routes for getting around them, you're always afraid you're going to put yourself in a corner, and you do sometimes. Like, you're good at avoiding them, but sometimes you just there is no avoiding them, and you put yourself there. And with that whole pulse pounding music going on, it makes you sweat a little bit. Yeah.
I will say I never really snuck around. I usually just ran and tried to get the route down. I didn't really cloak and hide too much.
No,
it was just a little too slow and difficult.
Yeah, and I feel like they'll walk into you. Like, I cloaked a few times and they just walk into you anyway.
Exactly.
And it's like, well, what the heck am I cloaking
Why did
for?
I even do that?
But I agree. I was sneaking sometimes. For the first few, like maybe 3, I snuck and didn't have an issue. Right. But as soon as there's that ping when they hear your footsteps, then it's I was like, well, I'm booking it. Like, forget it. I'm just gonna go. I know I need to get through this. But then they lock the doors. If they see you and they're red chasing you, the doors are locked. You can't.
And that's where the cloaking came in handy, because you could just cloak and have them stop,
and then just quietly roll through the door.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, should we get to these number ones then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's do it. All right. Here is my top moment in Metroid Dread. It's got to be the one that I held off on, and it is the revelation of the Metroid suit. I don't know if that's the official name.
I don't
but
know if it's the name either.
Yeah, it's the suit that looks most like a Metroid.
Yeah.
And it's at the end of the game after you've crashed the ship and are emerging, and you get the back of Samus. She just like gets up. You only see the back. I didn't even like know who it was. And I guess you do see it a little bit when she is just like wailing on Ravenbeak. But there's so much like going on that you can't see the transformation happening very clearly. But when she gets up and then turns around and then draws her cannon, you can see everything in all its glory.
Yeah.
That is the coolest suit I have ever seen in my entire life.
100%.
It's got just like claws and like almost like teeth on the cannon.
It's like bony.
Spikes everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a cool green.
Yeah.
It looks like a Metroid. I mean, it's her form fully realized. That Metroid DNA showing its full form.
Yeah, so I had this earlier, but it's my number one too.
Okay,
is this because I feel like the suit needs mention. It is the coolest Samus has ever looked. Like it is so badass.
Yeah.
Like
it made me want to draw it. Like I want to look at that. I typed it in online and couldn't find a picture of it. And maybe it's just because we're a week out from release and it's kind of still in spoiler territory. People don't want to know that exactly. You're
gonna submit it to Nintendo Power? You're gonna get published again?
Yeah,
do it, buddy.
Bring back Nintendo Power first.
Yeah. Well, we
then submit it.
Yeah.
But man, and the accompanying hyper beam, which I looked up
where it's at.
That's the official name for that one.
Yeah.
That was so cool. Just using that hyper beam to just blast through.
Yeah, and it
mile
was
long.
Right. It was like you get to blast through Ravenbeak, first of all, and then you use it as a means of escape, which was so good that they didn't only limit it to that one use.
Yes.
Like you got to go through rooms on your escape and blast other like smaller creatures that may have given you trouble earlier, and you're just
small
like
creatures, entire walls, like there's walls everywhere. Let me just 360 this real quick.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Really, really good. Yeah. The look of the suit, as you said, was just the coolest thing the Samus has ever worn. And it was her fully realized Metroid form. And I really like what they did with it, that when she got to the ship, they were like, oh, wait, like you can't touch that. You'll drain all the power from your ship. Like, and it's like, wait a minute, being a Metroid isn't cool.
Right.
This is not all it's cracked up to be. Yeah.
Go along with the planet like we want.
Right. You're basically like Rogue, but you absorb every bit of energy from everything, right? So I thought that was interesting. The reversion back was kind of like, well, really? Like, so she can now switch between the two? It wasn't really like clear how that worked.
Well, so the X parasite from Quiet Robe did it.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I don't think she can switch back and forth.
She's done now. You think there's no more Metroid in it? That was her last one use of the Metroid gene.
That's a good question. I don't have a good answer.
That's what I'm saying. Like
I think it took a very significant thing for the Metroid to come out and realize itself, and it was basically her like dying, so
which did increase as the game went on. So it wasn't like one single instant. It was like intentionally brought out, and Ravenbeak even says as much, like, you did everything I wanted you to, and it got the Metroid out basically.
Which that was a cool reveal, finding out like he's basically Adam, is it the AI? Yeah, kind of leading you along.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was so. Yeah, obviously, like the X parasites were made to battle the Metroids, and were successful in doing so with Samus's help. So yeah, I guess we'll find out, right? If there are future Metroids, would it take another situation to bring that out of her, or is it even there anymore?
So I've read that this arc is done, Samus and her her like relationship with the Metroids.
Right.
So I think that was it. I think that was the one time we'll see the Metroid.
That Metroid saved her life more than once. Then that same Metroid saved her life more than once.
Right.
I thought that was just such a cool way to wrap up this series.
Yeah.
Which, obviously we will be getting more Metroid. We're getting Metroid Prime 4 coming out. And I really hope they do more 2D Metroids, which, like, will they call them Metroids anymore? Will they now be Samuses?
Are you going to play as Samus? I mean,
I
they
would.
could open that up. I don't know.
I mean, then I feel like you might as well just make a different sci-fi game.
Sure.
Because if you're going to put it in this universe, like, I don't want, like, I want to play a Samus.
Yeah,
That's
be
like,
Samus, but just not have anything to do with Metroids.
right. I feel like there's a lot of potential there, it'd be good to get away from these things that the series has been doing since its inception and go in a different direction. I mean, they kind of did with Metroid Prime.
Yeah.
And it was good. It was good for that reason. There's a universe there to expand on, and not in like a Metroid Other M kind of way.
So
like,
what you're saying is a pinball kind of way.
I would play that game.
Yeah.
No.
Metroid Pinball 2?
No. No, I would not.
Okay.
No, I mean, that's something I think we should talk about because like, there's world building in the background. This was really the first one to dive more into it, but I mean, more Chozo would be cool. More Chozo interaction. Yeah. I get that they're like kind of intrinsically tied to both the X Parasite and the Metroids.
Sure.
But it would be cool to find, maybe she goes out into the universe trying to find more Chozo. Like that would be a neat story, and what she encounters on the adventure to do so would be kind of cool.
Well, I think it's good that we have Metroid Prime 4 on the horizon because for the longest time, there was just nothing. Like no one's been excited about Metroid in a long time.
I think Metroid.
We had the Prime stuff happen.
Yeah.
So that ended in 2007. And then Samus Returns in 2017?
17. Yeah.
That's a crazy amount of time.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think either of them sold well at all.
Exactly. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I am so curious to hear about sales numbers in North America for this one.
I can't wait to hear North America. That should be out around mid-November, I believe. But apparently Japan, it did really well in. Better than Metroid's typically do, which is a good sign.
Same in the UK.
I do think it did really well here, but I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch. But yeah, if you made it this far, you still play the game. It's still a lot of fun to play. If you haven't, I hope a lot of people get to experience this game.
Yeah,
that's my one hope, because even if you haven't played Metroid up to this point, it is going to be a difficult game for you at times. But it's worth experiencing, 100% worth.
I would say in the genre of Metroidvanias, I don't think it's the most difficult.
Right. No.
I think things like Hollow Knight and even Ori is a little more challenging than this.
Okay.
But yeah, this is a good Metroidvania to play if you want to, like, even if you're jumping into one for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, like, hearing a lot of people talk about how they struggled with it and how it was a detracting factor. I hate. And I'm sorry, like, I'm not a video game journalist and I'm not judging anyone on their skill to play a video game. If you don't like difficult games, I can understand how it may have limited your enjoyment of this or you were unable to finish it. But I don't like that being brought up as a negative, or like people, they're just doing it because difficult games are cool. Like David Jaffe came out and said something like that. And it's like, man, like, he said something about it being an excuse for poor game design. This game is not poorly designed. Like, I'm sorry. I understand David Jaffe has done more in the video games industry than I ever will, but this is not a poorly designed game. Like, I can't say that.
So I do want to point out this game has 0 accessibility features. You can't change a thing.
Absolutely. And that's a problem.
And that's not good.
No, I agree. I think even from a standpoint of like being able to remap buttons, like that's bad. But as far as people who have, who are able gamers, like that's tough. That's really tough. It's almost something that in 2021 shouldn't happen ever.
Right.
So I do agree with you on that point 100%. But I think like, it does something when it comes to games like this in Returnal, and it tells people to stay away. I mean, this is not a game people should stay away from. No. Returnal is not a game people should stay away from. And it's not that I hate it. It just like kind of hurts me a little bit that people will not get to experience these types of games because there is that dialogue.
There's like a discourse saying
Right,
like,
that-
this is a
right.
Dark Souls almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like even Dark Souls, like,
Right.
how dare you, Brian?
I know. I mean, I haven't played a lot of those games because I'm just like, oh, like Sekiro is a perfect example. I'm not going to touch it.
I haven't played Sekiro, but like it's, I feel like with so many games, it's a learning experience. Like, yes, games are not equal. There are games that are harder than others, but if you put the time into learning the game and learning the systems, like there are great games out there that you should experience, and hopefully like, this dialogue or discourse about them being too hard doesn't keep you away from them, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Also, how do you feel the moment the game told you, hey, guess what, you unlocked hard mode, now you can actually get a real challenge?
I mean, honestly, I was fine with it.
Sure.
Yes, I died on the bosses, but like I'm not the type of person to get too frustrated about that. Like it's that learning. It's that look, I played Dark Souls. Like I played enough of these games to know like you learn from your deaths, and that's what this game does well. That's what Dark Souls does well. That's what Returnal does well. You make mistakes that end up getting you killed, but you learn from them. Yeah, and this one too, like you said, like having that checkpointing, it was perfect, because if you had to go all the way back to a save point, and if save points weren't they were very prevalent in this game, and that helped so much because it just made it more accessible in the way that the difficulty was accessible at that point, right? Because you could just get right back in. Like, okay, I know this move is like attacks from this side and moves to that side now, and I have to dodge over here. And you had that information now, and you were able to get that one step further. And yes, you may die again, but then you have more information to go back in and fight the boss again. And yeah, it's that, to me, that is good gameplay.
Yeah. I love this game. I love the moments we talked about.
Yeah.
And I want more Metroid. I'm a Metroid fan. I've played almost all of them, the important ones, I will say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of want to go back. I mentioned to you I had been playing through Fusion a lot.
Yeah.
I definitely want to go back to Samus Returns now and see that one through and get more Metroid time in.
And you got Super Metroid on the Nintendo Online, so you got enough at your disposal. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, I love this game.
Yeah. All right, well, we do have a show for next week, and that is going to be our top 10 games to play in the dark.
Yeah. So what does that mean?
Yeah. We're going to almost round out October with spooky stuff. We will have our news episode.
Yeah, but this is going to be the end of the spooky-tober, I think.
Right.
Because the news is spooky to some, I think. But yeah, no. So I don't know about this list, Brian. Like, what are we doing? Because we did like scariest games last year, right?
Yeah.
So how are we going to?
We haven't talked about this, have we?
We haven't talked about this. No. So this is probably maybe subject to change. We may come up with like a rewording or some other spooky theme, but as of right now, it's top 10 games to play in the dark. The main thing I want to avoid is a rehash of last year's episode.
Totally.
Right. Yeah. So we'll probably discuss it off air, and we will let you know via Instagram if anything changes. So just be sure to drop us a follow on Instagram at List Off Podcast to stay in tune with that. But yeah, what a good episode, man. Enjoyed talking about this game.
Our third in-depth one single game episode.
Yeah, more to come. I'll tell you what, like I would do other games, Brian, but you haven't played them.
I know. It's difficult. Is there, to put you on the spot, is there a game in mind that maybe you've wanted me to play for a long time that you could see doing an episode like this on?
Yes, but I'm doing an episode on it with somebody else. Well, there are a few.
There's the punch.
There's Returnal, which I will be doing a guest appearance on another podcast at some point. I mean, not sure when it'll air, so more details to come.
Okay.
But Disco Elysium, I would actually really like to discuss with you.
I'm more considering that because I hear fantastic things, and it sounds like the Switch is a fantastic way to play it, and that just dropped. So.
Yeah. So if you do play it, I would play through it a second time just to have it fresh in my mind. But I think that's another one. There is so much depth in there, and so much to discuss that I think we could have a really good time with it. Other than that,
and we will be doing an episode on either Dark Souls or Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
I have a feeling I know which one it'll be. I think right now you're still winning by half a point. I don't know if any other predictions came true.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked at those in a little bit. So
I haven't either.
We'll see there.
But we will see there. Anyway, you want to wrap us up?
Sure. This is the first time I've wrapped us up.
Is it really?
Yeah. Let me think what you say.
It's your turn.
As always, guys, thank you so much for listening, and we hope you have a great week. Bye.
See ya.